Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are watching or listening to us from all around the globe. This is Esteem Radio Vision, and you are on the Psalmist. Welcome to the Psalmist. As we all know, this is the first Sunday in the year 2026. We definitely have a lot to be grateful for. As the hymn says, great is his faithfulness. Has God been faithful to you? Have you acknowledged his faithfulness yet? It is such a privilege for you and I to be breathing his air, to be in his presence, and to also celebrate seeing the first Sunday worship in his presence in this year 2026. On the Psalmist today, we are going to be looking at Psalm 65. And as usual, we will look at the emotions behind it, the time period where it was written. Why was it written? And who wrote this psalm? What was his mindset? Join me as we enter into another section of dissecting the heart and the emotions behind the lyrical psalmistry of the psalmist. Psalm 65 says, "Praise waited for thee, O God, in Zion, and unto thee shall the vow be performed." Verse 2, "O thou that hearest prayer, unto thee shall all flesh come." Verse 3, "Iniquities prevail against me. As for our transgressions, thou shalt purge them away." Verse 4, "Blessed is the man whom thou choosest, and causest to approach unto thee, that he may dwell in thy courts. We shall be satisfied with the goodness of thy house, even of thy temple." Verse 5, "By terrible things in righteousness wilt thou answer us, O God of our salvation, who art the confidence of all the hands of the earth, and of them that are afar upon the sea." Verse 6, "Which by his strength setteth fast the mountains, being guarded with power." Verse 7, "Which stilleth the noise of the seas, the noise of their waves, and the tumult of the people." Verse 8, "They also that dwell in the uttermost parts are afraid of thy tokens. Thou makest the outgoings of the morning and the evening to rejoice." Verse 9, "Thou visitest the earth and waterest it. Thou greatly enrichest it with the river of God, which is full of water. Thou preparest them corn, when thou hast so provided for it." Verse 10, "Thou waterest the ridges thereof abundantly. Thou settlest the furrows thereof. Thou makest it soft with showers. Thou blessest the springing thereof." Verse 11 says, "Thou crownest the year with thy goodness, and thy paths drop fatness. They drop upon the pastures of the wilderness, and the little hills rejoice on every side." And finally, verse 13, "The pastures are clothed with flocks. The valleys are also covered over with corn. They shout for joy, they also sing." The most important verse in this Psalm 65 this afternoon is verse 11. It is a prophecy, and it says, "Thou crownest the year with thy goodness, and thy paths drop fatness." If there's anything I want you to hold on to this Sunday, I want you to hold on to that verse 11 of Psalm 65. Understand that the year 2026 for you is already crowned with goodness, and that the fatness, which is the blessings of the Lord, will keep accompanying you all the days of this year, in Jesus' mighty name. Now, with regards to the historical background of this Psalm 65, Who wrote Psalm 65? Psalm 65 has been explicitly attributed to King David. It is both a song and also a psalm of thanksgiving. When was it likely written? Psalm 65 was likely written during a period of national peace and stability, especially after a good harvest season and the season of answered prayers. Theological scholars surmised that this Psalm 65 was written by David to be used in public worship at the temple, especially during harvest or Thanksgiving festivals. Now, what was David's mindset when he penned down Psalm 65? David was writing from a place of gratitude, not grief. He was writing from a place of reflection, not panic. He had confidence in God, not fear. His mindset was that God has heard us, forgiven us, protected us, and provided for us. This psalm flows from a heart deeply aware of God's goodness over time. Now shall we look at this psalm verse by verse to understand the message and the practical emotions behind it. Verse 1. Praise waited for thee, O God, in Zion. This refers to intentional worship. And this also makes us understand that gratitude cannot be rushed. Gratitude comes from understanding the reason why you need to be grateful. Like I said before, this is the first Sunday in the year 2026. The fact that you saw 2025 and you crossed over into a new year without accident, without sickness, without sorrow, without disaster, it is enough to make you go back to God and return the glory back to Him. There are many who wished to have seen another year, but they were not privileged to. There are many who saw the first day of this year, but they were not privileged to see the first Sunday in the year. Verse 2, it says, O thou that hearest prayer, unto thee shall all flesh come. David was painting a picture of a God who is accessible to all, who is attentive to all, and who is universal. David already knew that God was a God of the universe. He was not just God over Israel, He was God over the whole world. And David painted this picture of a God that we can access. And mind you, historically, remember that only the priests were allowed to go into the holies of the holies. Therefore, David was already prophesying that a time will come when all humans in the world, all souls of the earth, will have access to this God without having to be a priest. This is the mindset behind verse 2 of Psalm 65. Verse 3, it says, iniquities prevail against me. As for our transgressions, thou shalt purge them away. This tells us that even in thanksgiving, we should not ignore our wrongdoings, because forgiveness is a part of God's goodness. I know at the beginning of the year, a lot of us must have made resolutions. Your resolutions might have to do with maybe your transgressions of the past year. And you were telling God that this year I will not make the same mistake. I will not go back to my vomit. But somehow you found yourself making that same mistake again. And you are wondering what the new year will be like. There's a good news in Psalm 65 for you. It says God purges away all our iniquities. What this simply means is God's forgiveness is ever ready. As long as you acknowledge your transgressions, He is ever ready to forgive you. Verse 4 says, blessed is the man whom thou choosest. Blessing here refers to the closeness of God. It is not talking about material wealth, but rather God's presence becoming tangible in the life of a man. This refers not just to King David. He was not talking about himself here only. Theologians have surmised that he was talking to anyone who has a form of relationship with God. Because when you have a relationship with God, his blessings become tangible for you. And his hands and his works and deeds over your life become visible for all the world to see. Verses 5 to 7 describes God as powerful over nature. It describes God as sovereign over all the heads. It describes God as able to bring order when there is chaos. God is not the handwork of man. God is not small. God is the ruler of creation itself. This means that every day under God's care, we are reminded that we have a being that exceeds the universe in charge of us. Now in verse 8, morning and evening rejoice does not only talk about those periods of the day. It talks about how every single day, every single moment, every single minute, hour, second, every single piece of time we spend on this earth is under God's care, because God governs time itself. Verses 9 to 10, we see a picture of God as a divine farmer, one who patiently prepares the heart. And it is shown that God's provision is intentional, not accidental. Perhaps you might have looked ahead and you might have looked at your present circumstance and you have wondered to yourself, how will I survive 2026? Perhaps you are thinking about employment. Perhaps your worries is about your marriage. Perhaps your worries are about those kids that are to resume school tomorrow or next week. I am here to assure you that there is a God who is intentional about provision, and he will never fail you. Take heart and trust in him. Your provisions await you in Lord Jesus Christ. Verse 11 says, thou crownest the year with thy goodness. This is our central verse for today. And it shows us something. God will never abandon the year midway. God always ensures that he finishes the year beautifully for those that are his own. His goodness completes the passage of time. I want you to know, brethren, this afternoon, that God has good things in stock for you. I want you to know that his plans for you are for good and not for evil. And that is why I want you to put your trust in him this 2026. I want you to allow him to take the reins of the journey of your life through this year. Because at the end of 2026, you and I will receive that crown of glory. And we will be able to say this verse with joy. He has crowned my year with goodness. I pray that will be your portion in Jesus' name. Verse 12 and 13 shows us joyful abundance, showing us how creation itself responds to God's generosity. Let's look at verse 12. It says, they drop upon the pasture of the wilderness, and the little fields rejoice on every side. It shows that when God is the one driving the vehicle of your journey through a particular year, 365 days of circling around the sun, if you allow God to be the one in charge, your story will become that you find yourself upon pasture, even in the wilderness, and that even the little hills rejoice on every side. In verse 13, which shows us how this abundance. It shows that these pastures are filled with flocks. This is not referring to literal pastures. This is referring to the blessings of God that crowns the year with goodness and glory, and that the valleys are filled with corn. Let's remember that how is it possible to find pasture in a desert? It shows that no matter the circumstances, when God is with you, you do not feel it. He says in his word that thousands will fall at your right and tens of thousands at your left, but it will not come near you. This is a promise from the Almighty himself, and that can be found in those last two verses of the psalm we are dissecting this afternoon. That when we allow God to take the wheel of our lives, he responds with abundance, even in the midst of lack. He responds with generosity, and his generosity is more than enough for us. Before I go this afternoon, I want us to understand that this Psalm 65 reminds us that 1. God answers prayers. 2. God forgives all sins. 3. God provides consistently. As we continue on in the journey of this new year, 2026, I want this psalm to remain for us as both thanksgiving for the years past and also confidence for the year ahead. Dear esteemed listeners, viewers, wherever you're watching or listening to me from, this is still the Psalmist on Esteem Radio Vision, Obokun Avenue, Ilesha in Osun State. I know that this psalm we have dissected today, I believe that you must have gotten a message for the new year from this. If you have any comment, any addition to what we have done here this afternoon, please feel free to drop your opinions and your comments in the comment section. You can also send us an email at esteemradiovision@gmail.com or send us a text on 091-6634-9956. Once again, this is the Psalmist on Esteem Radio Vision. Before I wrap up this afternoon, I want to appreciate the executive producer of this program in person of the Honorable Deacon Michael Adeboye Ashaolu, founder of Eni Apole Foundation that gives hope to the needy, that gives hope to the hopeless, that renders help for the helpless, and also the CEO of Esteem Radio Vision. My appreciation goes to the loyal crew that have been here working on this program this afternoon, especially my producer in person of Afolabi Adenigbe. Thank you very much for your hard work in the studio. And before I go, once again, I'm also appreciating our esteemed viewers and listeners for staying with us on this program, for always tuning in every Sunday to the Psalmist. Don't forget to tune in next week as we will be looking at another psalm and dissecting the message that cuts across time and the emotions and the heart behind the psalmistry. Once again, my name is Ohunayo Ajiboye, and this is the Psalmist. Until next Sunday, keep watching Esteem Radio Vision.